Mm-hmm. Take your time.
You want to explain to me what you're doing here?
I came looking for booty.
You came looking for sex with an underage boy?
Oh, no, I ain't come looking for no little boys. I ain't got no milk, no cookies, nothing. I came looking for man's butt.
A man's butt? Excuse me?
Oh, I know who you are, Chris Hansen. But see, I calls you Chris Hansen. I watch your TV show all the time. So you can go ahead and bring them cameras and them police is waiting outside. It don't make me no difference. Now, I tell you what, I like you, and I want you. Now, we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. The choice is yours.
Well, I don't think you and I will be doing anything any kind of way.
Okay, I see you choosing the hard way.
Okay, cut. This isn't working. Someone get this guy out.
Don't make me ruin that bike,
No,
Chris.
please.
I'm a warrior.
Hello, fellow basement dwellers, and in today's video, we'll be talking about the Carcharodons. And no, I cannot pronounce that correctly. This is part 2 of my whole series, which will end on Halloween. Quickly, I'm gonna give a brief overview of the Carcharodons for newcomers. And the Carcharodons are the space sharks, are a very weird faction. Okay, this is kind of funny. So this is the Milky Way, right? They are circling above it. And the Milky Way is very big. So they've just been circling it for 10,000 years, like slightly outside of it, just hunting down random stuff. So, technically speaking, they're renegade, but they're still loyalists, if that makes sense. Like, they're renegade loyalists, if that makes any sense. They still have their faith to the Imperium, but they're not going to listen to any Imperial law. They do follow the Codex Astartes, but more as a guidebook as opposed to an absolute truth. The Codex Astartes does not approve of a 15-foot-tall shark man killing the Imperium's enemies. No, but they have a very unique combat doctrine, and, well, gene seed itself. Some of their gene seed symptoms are the fact that they are, like, cartoonishly formal. They only speak High Gothic. For those of you who don't know, High Gothic is pretty much Latin and Low Gothic is English. They only speak High Gothic like they loathe. They hate when they have to speak Low Gothic. And they're, like, so formal about it, like, textbook accurate. And on top of that, they use slang from 10,000 years ago. Like, their form of language is from 10,000 years ago, so that's pretty funny. And on top of that, they also use gear from 10,000 years ago. They still use heresy-era ships and equipment. They do have a thing called a Grey Tide, where pretty much they will meet up with random Mechanicum, scout fleets, because, again, both are on the edge of space, and they will trade all the random archaeotech that they find out there in exchange for, bullets, power armor, components to ships. So essentially, these guys are not only just, like, killing random things they find out in the void of space, they're also hunting for ancient technology so they can give it to Mechanicum in exchange for gear. They also have a Red Tide, which is cool, but is also the dumbest part of their lore. I wouldn't mind if they cut this out. Where they go to a planet and they literally kidnap every single person there. Now, I'm sorry, side tangent. That's so fucking stupid. Like, any planet that has over a few thousand people, where the hell are they supposed to keep them? They have a relatively small fleet of mostly scouting vessels, and, they do have their, big head ship, which is, a normal Space Marine battle barge size, but that can only fit, a few thousand mortal guys, especially I'm sorry, so that essentially means that they're kidnapping, a small portion of the population and then just wiping out the rest of them for no fucking reason. Anyway, sorry, side tangent over. So the Red Tide is how they, get more chapter serfs and, how they get more recruits to turn into space sharks. Now, their combat doctrine is very strange. I'm kind of going to be stealing Isandu and Coda's way of explaining their combat doctrine. I'm so sorry. Please watch their video. You're a loyalist, human. And you're fighting some, let's say, chaos cultists that, have a massive army. And you're not doing too hot, right? But then randomly, you're getting codes from these just purely ancient codes And you have to, like, go into the back and, like, pull out all of your super ancient equipment just to receive this stuff. And you decode it and everything, and it checks out to be loyalist. And so they simply asked you, can we help? And you're terrified, so you say yeah. And they leave, and then randomly, a massive military base, massive stronghold of the cult, gets ripped apart in a snap of the fingers. 1 second they're chilling, next second they're getting just ripped apart by Carcharodons. They sneak up, and right as they're on top of them, they just sprint. They just come from the depths and just berserk charge them. And they mostly use short-range firearms, and they love melee. They want to get into melee with lightning claws and just brutalize and rip apart everything. They will charge in, and they don't have resolve companies. Everything charges at once. And if they can't break through immediately, they'll just retreat as fast as they showed up. And they'll come back, circling the battlefield, looking for weak spots until that strategy can win. So yeah, they have a relatively odd combat doctrine. They also have no problem fighting other space marines, and almost wiped out an entire chapter during the Badab War, but that's a video for another day. Now, this weird combat doctrine, and just their weird abilities, and the fact that they will straight up, conform to be Raven Guard. It's obviously that they do have point Raven Guard, in them. But on top of that, I think most people can agree they have some Night Lord in them. Now, don't get me wrong. If these guys are Raven Guard, they are most likely the Raven Guard dropouts. When Corvus, picked up the Raven Guard, he wasn't a huge fan that he just, freed a slave planet, and his Raven Guard were pretty much Gestapo that had, Soviet-type gulags. So he kicked most of the original Raven Guard out, and so they kind of went off and did their own thing. I think it's pretty obvious that at some point in time, parts of these Renegade Raven Guard, well, I say Renegade, they're still loyalists, just Renegade to the Raven Guard, at some point form the Carcharodons. But still, even though these Raven Guard were particularly a tad bit more brutal, Raven Guard are not going to fight like this. Under no circumstance they're going to do a frontal assault. Anytime Raven Guard, the original Raven Guard or Corvus' Raven Guard, do any sort of frontal assault, they just get demolished. And the Carcharodons are a chapter you do not want to F with because of just how OP they are. So it's clearly not just Raven Guard. And there's many things, like the way they torture people, the way they act, just how pale their skin is. Not that all Raven Guard also have pale skin, but it's like even more pale than Raven Guard skin. And just how black their eyes are, and many of their mannerisms. And the fact that there were not many, but there were loyalist Night Lords that I do believe they do have some Night Lord in them. But still, these are two factions that are not gonna rush you. Yeah, the whole, sneaking up right until you're on someone, that is something that the Night Lords and Raven Guard would do, but they're not gonna immediately switch to full frontal assault. And on top of that, they are so ungodly brutal in combat. Like, you'll look at a Black Templar. Obviously, these guys love melee. Carcharodons are so much more brutal than they are. Like, these guys have the same brutality as the World Eaters, Crazed Blood Angels, and Space Wolves. But, unlike those three, they have the ability to instantly snap off their rage and disengage. While fighting some Night Lords commonly use a tactic where they love fighting Berserkers because they will, trick the Berserkers into, falling in them traps and everything. Second, the Space Sharks got too far away from the rest of them, they immediately snapped off their rage and went back to their squad. So unlike the Space Wolves, World Eaters, and Crazed Blood Angels, they can turn off their rage. Now, a lot of people think these guys use World Eater Gene Seed. I don't think there's an ounce of World Eater Gene Seed in them. Now, a lot of people think that because they also, have harpoons on their ship, which is, used to grab ships and, I can't punch you if you're on the other ship, so I'm going to grab you with my harpoon and so I can, go punch you. I believe that because these guys are partly Berserker, they do, change the weapon to them. They pick that up from the World Eaters, but I don't think they have any World Eater DNA in them. I believe they have Blood Angel DNA, and that's why these guys can go so berserk. Because even if they had World Eater, it makes no sense, because World Eaters The only reason the World Eaters are berserkers is because of the Butcher's Nails. Before that, they were pretty much just like Emperor's children. They were literally just like less gaudy, more masculine Emperor's children. They were more like paladins than anything. They weren't these mindless berserkers. So if you add World Eater Gene Seed to them, it shouldn't make them more aggressive. It should make them less aggressive. Now, don't get me wrong. World Eaters are very aggressive, and when angled, they do rage like no other, except maybe the salamanders. But what I'm saying is, they're not randomly just going to go into a rage. Even if they go into a rage, they're not going to be a berserker. They're just going to go into like a similar rage to the salamanders. So, I believe they use Blood Angel Gene Seed because these guys will have so much rage, so much aggression. They'll just be butchering and killing children. Like, these guys, it's like taking a katana to a preschool. Like, these guys will just be demolishing, just wiping the floor of other space marines. And then instantly, all the blood-crazed maniacness will just snap off and they'll go back into formation. I believe they use Blood Angel Gene Seed, and they can go into a red thirst or black rage type state, but because they have other gene seeds mixed in, because they have Raven Guard and Night Lord Gene Seed, 2 gene seeds, I mind you, are incredibly restrained. Like, with the exception of a handful of people, Night Lords and Raven Guard have so much restraint. These are the stealth guys. They're not gonna go charge you. They're not gonna, get whip and tail inside of a melee. So because they do have that unfathomable rage and, just brutalism that they're able to snap off instantly, I believe the Night Lord and Raven Guard allows them to go into a pseudo black rage red throw state, but because of those gene seeds, they're able to snap it off. So currently we're looking at Raven Guard, Night Lord, and Blood Angel Gene Seed. And also I want to clarify, there were Blood Angels who deeply hate Sanguinius. Most of them obviously love the dude, but there are some who blame their curse for Sanguinius. So there would be a possibility of Blood Angels joining up with random loyalist Night Lords and loyalist Raven Guard. There would be, Blood Angels who want to leave and join someone else. But I believe there was still 1 gene seed left. I believe, now hear me out when I say this, they have Death Guard Gene Seed. Now hear me out, right? I'm going to give a little story about the Death Guard, right? The Death Guard were not always known as the Death Guard. They used to be known as the Dusk Raiders. And these guys would attack at dusk, similar to the Carcharodons. You're never going to see this 10-foot tall Terminator Shrike Space Marine running at you in broad daylight. They will wait until night or dusk to attack and, swarm. So already the Dusk Raiders, the pre-Death Guard Dusk Raiders, have a lot in common with the Carcharodons on their combat doctrine of waiting until nightfall and just Zerg rushing you. Obviously, mix in a little bit of Blood Angel aggression and Night Lord and Raven Guard sneakiness, and you pretty much have the Carcharodons. And on top of that, on top of the very, I'm just going to one hit send all my guys one unstoppable force to you, type strategy that both the Carcharodons and the Dusk Raiders had. There's also more proof because there was a campaign that the Death Guard had. Not the Dusk Raiders, the Death Guard, when they already changed their combat doctrine and their equipment to, be these walking tanks. There was a massive instance where they pretty much re-adopted their Dusk Raider combat doctrine for just a single day. Because during the Death Guard campaign against Galaspa being this, I'm not even going to get into it because you know how much I love to get into random crap, so I'm not going to get into this because neither of us want to be here that long, but Galaspa was a planet that most Loyalist forces wanted to blockade and starve out, but because of how many people were being oppressed there, and Mortarion's his hatred of oppressors, he pretty much threw away the Death Guard combat doctrine and for one day brought back the Dusk Raider combat doctrine. Because the slow-moving, stamina-fighting, Death Guard that are very slow, very tanky, they want these long, drawn-out campaigns similar to the Iron Warriors. They pretty much swooped in and conquered Gillespie in a single day. Their entire military force landed and swept across the planet in lightning speed. They literally attacked this planet the same way the Carcharodons would if the Carcharodons were Legion size. If you pretty much want to know what the Carcharodons would be up to if they were like full Legion size, read the Mortarion Primarch novel, because the Dusk Raiders literally had the exact same combat doctrine as the Carcharodons. Again, I'm not trying to sound a broken record, but let's get all of our dudes right on top of the enemy. Let's get all of our dudes, and let's just rush the enemy in one single assault, crushing them with everything we have. Now, mix in a little bit of Blood Angel ferocity and some Night Lord and Raven Guard sneakiness, and you literally have the Carcharodons. Simple as that. And as I said earlier, with there obviously being, a large amount of, somewhat renegade Raven Guard, and there being, some renegade, but definitely not chaosy, but semi-loyalist Night Lords, and there also being, Blood Angels. I imagine the Blood Angels would join this last, because the Blood Angels, up until Sanguinius died, absolutely loved him. It was only after Sanguinius died that some of them were like, man, fuck this guy. And again, it was a very small amount of them. And Dusk Raiders, there were still some Death Guard who still upheld the Dusk Raider mantle. So imagine this, right? Horus Heresy breaks out. A large amount of these Renegade Raven Guard start, doing what they do best, guerrilla war against the Heretics. And along the way, they pick up a handful of Renegade Night Lords, because some Night Lords really, really weren't a fan of all this chaos shenanigans. Now, again, the Night Lord Legion never really was a fan of, this chaos shenanigans, but there were some who wanted to stay loyal. So at some point, they either take some Night Lord prisoners and, incorporate them into themselves, or some Night Lords willingly join them. And also at some point, some Death Guard also join this merry band of misfits. And after the heresy, some disillusioned Blood Angels also join up. But at some point, again, these guys aren't very much liked by the rest of the Imperium, so they only have limited resources. They can't just go up to a Forge Lord and demand a new ship. These guys have such limited resources that they have to share. So they'll, sent off, into the void. Again, I have no idea who, made the decree where, hey, you guys gotta go in the void and just fight random stuff. And also you can, kidnap random planets. That's so fucking stupid. We don't know who did that, but they probably would have sent, the entire fleet of them, all four of these, different Space Marine types. And because these guys were obviously sent with the Codex Astartes, and they wanted to follow it to some extent, they wanted to keep their numbers to 1,000 men. And instead of having, 250 of this guy, 250 of that guy, they just decided to merge the gene seed over time. The gene seeds would eventually merge into, a rough amount, being a quarter Night Lord, quarter Raven Guard, quarter Dusk Raider, and quarter Blood Angel. And so that could be a possible solution. Now, again, there's so many gaps, there's so much stuff, even I don't know. Again, this is just pure speculation. The only gene seed type that we know that the Carcharodons have is the Raven Guard. But, again, I am just gonna say, I am so sorry that you have to listen to my lispy voice say Carcharodons. Anyway, so the only gene seed we know they have is Raven Guard. So the others are pure speculation. I'm saying Night Lord simply because they do have some aspects of Night Lord, although the Raven Guard and Night Lords are very, very, very similar. They are straight up an emo shark carbon copy of the Dusk Raiders. So I don't care what anyone says. These guys have Raven Guard gene seed and Death Guard gene seed. Well, Death Guards and the Dusk Raiders, same thing, but you get what I mean. So yeah, did I solve the mystery of the Carcharodons with these 4 gene seed types? Probably not. Did I get somewhere close? Probably. Will I absolutely die on the hill that this is their gene seed? Because some people are going to be saying that, oh, they don't use Death Guard gene seed. They use, White Sky gene seed. And that could be the case, but very, very unlikely, because White Skies do not want to commit to an assault. Blood Angels, they kind of want to commit to assault. Waving Guard sure as hell don't want to commit to an assault. Waving Guard sure as hell don't want to commit to an assault. Night Lord sure as hell don't want to commit to an assault. And I can guarantee you White Scars do not want to commit to assault. These are the kings of skirmishy. So they need something that's going to make them want to just take all their force and just push the enemy in one spear tip assault. And I believe that is where the Death Guard Gene Seed comes into play. Now, again, I'd like to reiterate, probably not, but I'd like to say thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for all that you do. Please like and subscribe to make the Chaos Gods of YouTube happy and to make me happy. And also, I'd like to say again, this is the second part in my Halloween horror series. I know it is far away from Halloween, because I would like to keep this to about a video a week, so I know that this is, far from Halloween, but it's still spooky. Halloween is my Christmas. People start celebrating Christmas 2 months before Christmas happens. I like to celebrate Halloween early, because Halloween's by far my favorite holiday. And so we will be getting all sorts of crazy Halloween content until Halloween and probably a bit after. And again, for those of you still listening, every week I will be listing off a new terrifying 40k faction. Well, terrifying and or spooky, or just fits the theme of Halloween. Every week, somewhere around, Sunday or Saturday. And if you, in this comment, if you go down the comments and you list off what I will pick for the next video, like the next video in line, like, for example, I made the same offer last video. If someone in last video said Carcharodons or Space Sharks, I would give them a bit of a shout out in this video. I would just, pin their comment, heart, like, and pin their comment, and, just show their comment in this video. So, if anyone said Carcharodons in the last video, here they are. If they didn't, womp womp. And if you can guess the next faction being showed, then you will get the same treatment. See you in the next one.